our fashion class. In today's lesson, I'll be talking about optical illusion in fashion design. To get us started with this topic, we are going to take a look at vertical line versus horizontal line and their effects in fashion design. Vertical lines are going to make people look taller and slimmer. And horizontal lines are going to make people look wider and shorter. Now, based on different applications of usage of these lines in the clothing design, you could have variety of design, even just playing with these two forms. For example, if you consider vertical line, you could play with texture of your fabric. You could have a vertical strip fabric, or horizontal, right? So by repeating that line, you can create a texture in your print. You could also use those lines as constructional seam. For example, if you have a princess cut, which is, I'm not having a model here, but just to give you an idea, if this is a princess cut and you have these seams going vertically, they're going to make people look taller, versus if you have a clothing, same kind of dress, and then you apply constructional seams that are going horizontal. So this will kind of cut off the length to shorter pieces and make people look shorter and wider versus the vertical line. We also have diagonal lines that are neither vertical or horizontal, and you have unlimited number of diagonal lines from horizontal to vertical. And basically, based on the degree of a slant that they have, they would have different visual effects. For example, this line, because it's closer to the horizontal line, it will have similar effect as horizontal line, meaning it's going to make people look shorter and wider. Say if you have that same dress here, in a really basic form, if I have a line similar to that happening here versus a line that is closer to vertical, which make people look taller, and let's quickly have that form drawn like that. When you compare these two forms of dresses, this would make person look taller and slimmer, and this would make people look shorter and wider. So that's just the basis of the line. Now for your assignment, we are going to combine the emphasis point that we had the lesson for last week and add on to it these lines. So in the previous week, we had emphasis point at either top, mid part of the body, or lower part of the body. And now for this first one, we're going to have the emphasis at the top, but we're going to use an arrow on top. The first form of the arrow would be just naturally like that, and then the other one, we're going to start, it's upside down arrow. So it's kind of extending beyond the body. Let's give them a name. I'll call this A1 and this one A2. If we compare these two, first of all, both of them are bringing the attention to the top, the same as before. But A2 is going to make person look taller and slimmer because it's extending beyond the height of the person. And unconsciously, the viewers are going to look beyond. So that's why they think that she or he is taller. And this one is going to extend the length a little more than that. Just because of that form, you're bringing attention to the top, and kind of your eyes want to continue looking upward, right? So you actually end up looking at the face more. and eventually that's going to make person look taller than that form. If we give this 0, I'll call this whole line 0. So basically we refer back to this as our starting point. Now moving on with this, that would be your first assignment, and in a minute I'll show you how to apply them to the actual models. Let's take a look at the second set, which I call them B1. So again, here's your person. For this series, it's absolutely important that you use the exact same model. Don't change the body movement because you really want to take a look at them and compare them. In B1, we're going to have that arrow at the bottom, right? And B2 is going to have the arrow, but it's extending beyond the length. So again, both of these are drawing the attention to the bottom as before, right? But B2 is going to make person look taller and slimmer, and B1 still making the person look taller than 0, like just a straight cut off line, but also is drawing the attention to the bottom. My puppy is barking. Probably someone came. Don't know. All right, so let's take a look at the actual exercise for these two. All right, so now that we know about these lines, let's put them into actual exercise. So first I'm going to use the guideline for A1 and A2. We do 2 sketches and then we do B1 and B2. It is very important that you use the same exact model for them so that way you could compare. I'm going to use the model I made last week or a couple weeks ago for you guys. So to start off, you're going to write A1 and put the sign in there. So when I go in for marking, I know what you meant by the design that you're offering. So the first step is to just take a look at this and apply it right onto the model. So in this case, I'm going to have that arrow right here. And I'm not too worried about the design at this point. I just put that there. Now to make this simplified, I'm going to keep everything the same. So I'm going to have a very basic dress for all of my models. I mean, eventually you're going to combine different forms when you're designing. But in this case, we're just isolating every individual assignment to be just focused on that. So you're not combining anything. Go ahead and draw the person, like the area of the body that you don't have anything for. It's like the hair and the head and shoulder. So that's as simple as that. So step 2, you're gonna come up with some idea how to decorate that. So in this case, I would say I could add a layer of lace up here, or I could have a different kind of fabric. All right, so now let's move on to A2. I'm going to use the exact same model because it's important to be able to compare them. So I'm going to place my paper over top of the same model. And first thing I'm going to do is to apply that form, which is a V. And I'm going to extend it beyond the head, right? Like beyond the height of the person. So first of all, I mean, you could just have that line right there, right? And then you start thinking. So that's the first thing. Step 2, I'm going to draw the same line as I had on that other one, so they're comparable. So I'm going to have the same kind of a dress. And I'm going to draw the head and the hair And now I have to start thinking, right? So there are so many different things that you could do. You could use this as a form of large collar on the outside, or you could have kind of install a fair for the neckline. You could have a hat, even a hat that has kind of extending the height beyond the normal height. So that part you are going to come up with ideas. And sorry, my dog is barking. I don't know why, but I am not going to start recording again. So I just continue. Just excuse the sound, extra noise in there. So I'm going to, in this case, I'm going to consider this as my guideline. And I'm going to come up with an idea. Maybe I'll just make this to a very fancy color, applying some lines to show that this is fair or feather. The whole point is that we want to have the clothing to be extended beyond there, and I could even have it coming down to the chest. There we go. As for the sleeve, I'm just going to leave it as a raglan, almost like a halter at the top, and I'm going to draw the rest of the body. Just like that, right? So this is nothing technical, and I'm not really talking about any technical design at this point. We are just going to see the optical illusion in fashion. So that's all, right? But to give you other ideas, you could use, you know how we had a lesson on drawing colors? You could have a color that is, you know, extending beyond. Say if this is the head. Here's the waistline. We had a detailed lesson on how to draw colors, so you could refer to that. Right? So even a design like this is going to make the person look taller. So that part I leave it up to you, so you could come up with, you know, your own ideas of how you're going to design your piece of clothing.